5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good afternoon, everyone from Malaysia. And here we are at the Global Empowerment Summit on a sunny Sunday afternoon. And for you, always, what time of the day it is?
It's 12:30 p.m., so midday.
Okay, so it's like lunchtime. Thank you for spending your lunchtime with us.
Great.
So here we are with you, and as the audience already knows, in the last 4 weeks, we were talking about so many topics. I love to work around the wheel of life. So we bring you everything so that you are informed about the trends and you are having the quality people here who you can ask about the different things all around your life. So you don't really have to search further because I made it sure that everyone here knows what he or she is talking about. I made interviews with almost all the 212 people. So it's kind of like really vetted by me, and you can be sure to reach out and get a good answer. So Ovais, today we are here with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? And a little bit about your personality. What do you do? What do you like to do in your free time?
So I am basically from Karachi, Pakistan, in the South Asia. Um, Broadly speaking, my career is based on risk management. If I talk about the softer side, what do I do in my leisure time? I'm into sports, so I play football, I play badminton, I do swimming. These are the three sports that I play the most. Then I am into writing, so I write blogs, I write poetry in Urdu language, which is our native language. Um, and then I also try to mentor people and be active on LinkedIn and do all sort of good work that the world expect us to do.
Thank you. So you also stepped into the line. I mean, doing the things that the world wants us to do. Very, very interesting point of view. I would talk about that a lot because I'm a fan of talking about manipulation and how the world tells us what to do. But that's not the session for today. Let's just go to your topic, which is about risk management. And it's a very specific thing that I will be honest with you, I know about it because of my financial background, but I'm not really dealing with it nowadays. So it will be a good refreshment for me. And maybe for the audience, we can give a round tour around risk management, starting with the definition. So what is risk management for you, always?
So basically, this is a concept that is mostly linked with the financial institutions up to now, but it's also expanding to the non-financial institutions as well. But largely, it's something that is restricted to corporates mainly as of now. But I do believe that it's more than that. So if we talk about risk management, let's talk about the definition of risk. So what risk is? Risk is the uncertainty that we can face. So if we are going into a business, let's say if we are launching a business of selling mobile phones, okay, so what risk can we have? Is our business model good enough? Should we hire relevant people to do the task? Do we have enough tools and templates to carry out that business? Do we have the technology? Do we have the communication? Do we have the marketing team to do the sales? Okay, so have we built enough reputation to make our business work? So whenever we talk about risk management, it's all about knowing the uncertain portion of your business, of your startup, of your small business, whatever business you are in, and it is equally applicable to the corporate as well. So when you know what are those uncertainties, what are those volatilities, what are the areas where we can be impacted, where we can be hit, and then we try to manage it, we try to quantify it, we try to mitigate it, we try to transfer it. These are some of the methodologies, some of the ways of managing your risk. So first thing is knowing your risk. What are the risks? Risk is what? Risk is just uncertainty around outcomes, and then manage it. Yet again, we keep saying it in risk management again and again that you cannot eliminate risk. Okay, I give this example to my students very usually. It's that whenever you try, for example, you have to go to the mall or to the cinema or to any other place. What you'll have to do, you'll have to get out your home, and if you have a car, you'll have to drive. When you will drive, there is this always risk of being in an accident, in a road accident. So would you avoid going to that particular place? No, but you will take measures. Okay, you will make sure that the car is in best possible way. You will make sure that you are wearing your seat belt. You will make sure that your car is yeah, the brakes are working, the steering is working well. So you are mitigating the risk of accident by taking those actions, and these are the actions which we may consider as risk management strategies. So this is what risk management is, and this is how we deal with it.
So we have already the basics. So risk management, you have something uncertain in your life, right? And you are trying to optimize the situation, and you are trying to reduce the impact, the negative impact of that unforeseen event. And you can also, let's say, optimize the opportunities which are coming from that, right? There is a plus, a pro and a con, right, in the risk management arena. So what's the first step after we know what is risk management? How do you assess your risks? How do you assess your portfolio as an individual and as a startup? How can we do that?
So basically, there are different ways of doing it. Okay, so if we talk about a very basic thing which we consider as risk management process, your risk management cycle. In the risk management cycle, the first phase is to identify risk, then we assess those risks, then we manage those risks, and then we implement and monitor those risks. So the first method, which is the most critical, is to identify your risk. Okay, so the risk identification is a detailed process, and it can be done through various aspects. One of the aspect of how you can identify of risk is through brainstorming. Okay, so for example, you are getting into a business, into food delivery business, for example. So you get a survey, and you ask people that the people who are already working in the food delivery business, that what sort of risk which has been faced by the organizations. Okay, you do research, you try to find out the case studies, and you try to see what sort of risk is this business have. Then you brainstorm, you bring your best people from your organization. If you are talking about a startup, it would be 4, 5, 6 people who would be working. You may hire some expert, or you may get help from some expert, and you brainstorm and you discuss what potential risk that organization can have. This is one of the basics. If we go a bit of advance, and that's how corporates do it, is to identify through processes. Okay, so for example, if we again go to a food delivery business, there is a process of cash coming and cash going. Okay, so you are accepting cash from the customers, and you are paying cash to the people who are delivering you the food. Okay, so you have this risk that there is mismatch between the amount that you have received from the customer and the amount you are paying to the food delivery guy. Okay, so this is one process. So the ideal thing is that you identify your major processes. What processes do you have? For example, hiring is a process. Hiring people into an organization is a process. uh, Booking your accounting details is a process. Okay, then cash financing is a process. So whatever processes you have, if you could identify that, and then you discuss that this particular process has this risk. Okay, so you have 10 processes, and then you have 10 risk, and once you're able to identify those risks, then you can decide what would you actually be doing with that particular risk. Would you be mitigating it? Would you be avoiding it? Would you be transferring it to some other party? So this is the basic. That's how we start identifying our risk, and then we move on further to managing our risk.
That's a good. I will get further with the examples, because I would like to have give a bit more help to the audience to understand it. But before I go there, I just point here down. So if you are in the treasure hunt application and you're playing with us, then this is the secret code. It's time to tap into the application with the QR code on the top, and please type this secret code into the game. So after I updated the audience and the gamers and the treasure hunters, let's go back to the examples. So risk management, you say, okay, these are the processes, these are the things that we have, and where are the risks? Here and here and here. But what are the risks? Like, tell us a few examples, like in the financial process, what can be the risk? In a supply chain process, what can be the risk? So tell us a few live examples.
So basically, the first and the foremost risk, especially for the startup, is regulatory risk, regulatory and compliance risk. So, for example, you are in Malaysia, you are working on a startup already, and now you are trying to expand to other countries. Okay, so you know what's regulatory environment in Malaysia like. You know what are the taxes, what are the disclosures that you'll have to do to your supervisors, and what needs to be done. But for example, today you decide, okay, so we have done a good job in Malaysia, now we should expand to Pakistan. So Pakistan is a different environment. It's a developing country. It has its own challenges. It has its own regulatory bodies. So if you are expanding to that, and obviously it's just an example. It's equally applicable if you are operating just in Malaysia. But if you're expanding to Pakistan, then you need to know what are the regulatory requirements. For example, the tax rate in Malaysia, let's assume it's 10% for startups because they support startup businesses. But if you're coming to Pakistan, I'm just giving example, not the exact number, but let's say the tax rate in Pakistan is 20% for startups. Now that's a direct 10% hit on your profit margin, and that's an area where you need to we need to decide whether you would be willing to take that hit or not. Okay, so that's one aspect. Second aspect is there are regulatory penalties. So maybe you, if you are, for example, again going back to the food delivery business, if you are into food delivery business, there would be some stringent regulatory requirement that you'll have to meet. For example, the riders would be wearing a helmet. Their bikes should be insured. They should have life insurance, and so on and so forth. So there can be a plethora of regulatory requirement that you should be adopting, you should be following. Obviously, whenever there are any requirement, there would be some sort of check on that particular front. So whenever there's a regulatory check, you should be able to meet all those of requirement. If you don't fulfill those requirements, if you don't able to meet them, there is a risk that you may be imposed some regulatory penalties. Okay, so for example, you had a business of, let's say, $5,000 during a month, but you have been put a penalty of $4,000 due to not meeting those requirements. Now all of your profit is gone. Number one, that's the one loss. Number second loss is whenever you are being penalized by any regulatory environment, it will be in the news, it will be in the social media, it will be talk of the town, especially if you are a growing startup, and people will start talking about it, and you will have another risk in place, which is reputational risk, which is considered to be the most critical risk in the organization, especially for the startup. So reputational risk is a risk which which can happen from a lot of ways. It can be a tweet, it can be a Facebook post, which can bring that risk, but it can also come from regulatory side as well. And once it comes, it's very difficult to tackle. Once you lose that reputation that you have built in the market, it's very difficult to take that back. So regulatory risk, there's reputation risk, there's financial risk, which is considered to be the main and most critical aspect of any startup. You don't have money to do things. For example, what a startup do, they start expending humongously in the start, and they don't realize that they don't have the cash, they don't have the money. So they will build an office, they will do all sort of renovations, and the startup founder will be getting a very good salary. And these are the things that you cannot afford if you are into a startup. So you need to make sure that your financials are in place, your assets and liabilities are matched, and you have that sort of cash flows that you can run in the long, if not long term, short term to medium term. For example, if you talk about liquidity risk is a specific type of financial risk. Liquidity risk means that you have money to pay your liabilities. So, for example, if you have to give salaries to your employees, do you have enough money to pay salary to your employees or not? If you don't have that sort of money, then you are in a liquidity crisis. So you should know what sort of liabilities do you have and what sort of assets and what sort of cash flows do you have, so that you can match that and you can be sure that your finances are working extremely well. So these are few of the examples. There can be there are many risks that we can talk about probably in the workshop that we'll cover, but broadly speaking, these are the risks that we startup should be thinking about.
And that's very good that you mentioned that on the 7th of November, we will have a full workshop about risk management. And I'm so looking forward to it. So everyone who will watch this on replay or who is watching now, then please make sure that you are there, otherwise in the workshop room, because also the workshop rooms are worthing double points, and I will share treasure codes there too. Plus, risk management cannot be really explained so shortly, and we have only 20 minutes, so it's almost over. It's just flying so much. Like, really, this needs a lot of time, and it's something that if you learn it well, then it will really help your financial situation, and it can be also like a mindset, right, that you apply in other areas of your life, and it will help you with everything. So we are reaching to the end. So I would like to ask the last questions, which is about trends and tools in 2021 that can help startups to deal with risk management. What are those things that you could advise here?
So, if you talk about trend first, there has been a lot of talks about cybersecurity risk. Cybersecurity risk had always been there, but due to the current circumstances, as people move towards working from home and remote life is started, the risk of cyber attacks and ransomwares have increased significantly globally. So the number of cyber attack attempts have increased 10 times as it used to be in the earlier years. So managing cyber risk, managing it well, building the right sort of security for your system, for your application, is the utmost critical thing. Whenever we talk about startups, we have seen that startups are mostly towards the technology side. So in the technology, you will have an app which will be the main, source between the customer and the user and the service provider. And then there is a lot of data involved, and most importantly, these applications also have the option of saving your credit card details and then make payments through it. So if you lose the data on your website, you just don't lose your website data, you also lose the credit card details of the customers, which can be sold in the black market or which can be used to do transactions. There had been a lot of cases recently where companies were attacked, and not just startups, big companies were attacked, and they actually lost data. So cybersecurity is in the trend, and it's talked about. Supply chain risk is something that is also talked about pretty much because of what happened during these times. Things were not reaching, things were closed. You were not able to get oil, you were not able to get your supplies. You go to Subway and they will say that we don't have that cheese because we are not able to import it. So you see it in your daily life as well. So these are the areas which are more trendy during 2021. When you talk about tools, basically, whenever we talk about risk management, there are two types. One is quantitative and one is qualitative. Quantitative risk is something that you can quantify, something that you come up with a number. For example, I say that I will have a loss of $10,000 during a year if I don't do that. Okay, but there are risks which cannot be quantified. For example, reputational risk is a risk you cannot quantify it. you can qualitatively see that it can be impact 5% of profitability, 10% of profitability, but you cannot just quantify it. So broadly speaking, so one tool that I specifically want to discuss, and that we'll cover in our workshop as well, is the risk control matters. So what you do is, as I explained earlier in the introduction, you try to identify your processes. So even if you don't identify all the processes, if we're a startup, we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of processes. We When we do it for corporates, the processes goes to thousands. Let's assume there is an organization which has 10 different departments. 10 different departments has 10 different units. Okay, so you can talk about hundreds and thousands of processes. But even if you don't go to that level, even if you can identify the critical process that you may have, for example 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 processes, which brings the key risk to your organization. We also refer it as key risk indicators. And then you monitor those processes, those indicators, and you try to mitigate those risks. I'm talking about an Excel sheet, just an Excel sheet where you have your processes, you have your risk, and you have your mitigation techniques, and you're saying that whether you have covered your risk. Very basic, 4 or 5 columns, and 10, 12, 15, 20 rows based on the dynamics of your business. So that's a very handy tool that can be used for by any organization. It's not that difficult. See, in corporates, the risk management is a rocket science. Okay, so you have a lot of quantitative modelers who put a lot of data, who will go into a lot of modeling, and they will come up with a very complex definition of risk management. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about very simple basic measures that can be adopted for startups. Again, startups already have some financial limitations, so they cannot hire a full-fledged risk management team. So probably the finance guy or founder himself would be doing this. So if you could just build a risk control matrix, you highlight your key processes, you highlight your key risk, you highlight your key risk mitigation techniques, you're good to go. So that's the one tool that should be adopted, and is something that we'll go into discuss in the workshop as well. We will have something in the picture, and where you can see what sort of risk there are and how it can be mitigated.
Thank you very much, Awais. It was a really good start. So we get the basics right. We know what is risk management. We know how to assess it. And we know also that you can also prevent some things and lesser the impact of the negative impact of the unforeseen events, and you can get some opportunities from the risk. So there is a positive impact. Also, there are tools that you can use like simple Excel file. And we also talked about the trends, that it's very, very important to check your cybersecurity for your websites and anything that you share online. So thank you very much, Awais. It was a really compact 30 minutes with you already, with a lot of wisdom nuggets. We see you again on the 7th of November. Thank you very much for taking a little time off your Sunday and from your family to be with us. I hear the baby calling you, so I let you go. And I will
No,
also
thank you.
head up to the workshop room with Pertpal. If you would like to join us, audience, you know where to go. Go to the website, to the sessions, and then click on the session title, and see you in the Zoom room with Pertpal Singh. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Awais.
Thank you, Andrea. See you
Have a
there.
beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.